Hey, it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. And we are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on a viewer question, and that is, can I become a narcissist or a sociopath while hanging around with a narcissist or a sociopath? And I want you to understand that there is a law of called social reciprocity, which basically means human beings have a tendency to respond in like kind according to the energy that is generated by an individual. So, if a narcissist or a sociopath or a psychopath or malignant narcissist is generating pathological energy, thought, behaviors, opinions, judgments, validations, and requiring you to interact with them, talk, discuss, work with, live with, be in intimate relationships with, be married to, you are going to be subject to an exposure to this type of malignancy or this type of diseased, really sort of a toxic thought pattern, which you might, in your heart of hearts, you might be able to recognize this, and maybe you're stumbling upon this. You're discovering that for this first time that this person is emanating, living from, and it's a rigid pattern within them. And if they are narcissistic, malignant narcissistic, or sociopathic, they are oftentimes number one in a familial congruency there, or a common denominator is that they are lacking of empathy. And so they are, not really interested or altruistic or selfless or giving in that nature. So they don't have that sort of connecting foundation to people. And it's not just you, it's anyone in their life. Even if you've ever seen a sociopath or a psychopath relate to their kids or their wife, they have no emotional connection to their flesh and blood. They don't have any genuine relationships. It's just they don't have the ability, and they're aware that they don't have this emotional connection to others, to life, to the sentimentality, to appreciation of the greater things in life. They really just have more of a different, oftentimes negative and harmful, dangerous connection to others in life, meaning that their way of connecting or relating or moving through their life, if you will, is in this, really deep lack of empathy, and it allows them to transcend social norms, break the laws, break relationship laws, not have empathy, and basically hurt others without feeling bad, without feeling regret, remorse. They're able to furthermore perceive ways of manipulating others that most people would not even think of. So their thought patterns are very much out in left field where most people are not there. They're thinking on these decrepit terms, and so you can basically be completely manipulated. You can be completely deceived, duped, etc. And through this manipulation of this person, they have the ability to lie with great facility. In other words, they don't flinch. They don't have really sort of the physical changes. Even they've been able to pass lie detector tests because of their wiring. They're able to lie. They're able to deceive. They're able to do this in a very fluid way. They have a huge facility with the ability to lie, and they will do this even if it's not necessary. It's just their way of manipulating and controlling people, and they get a little bit of a high or a reward or a dopamine release by doing this. And so people ask well, how can they do this? Is because this is what they do. This is what they're wired to do, and they don't feel bad. They don't see that they have done something wrong. So if you don't see what you have done, you can't learn from it. In other words, you can't correct yourself. it's going to continue. They're going to do it not only with you, but they're going to do it with other people. So you can't really feel bad that you had done anything wrong to deserve this. And so you might temporarily feel like you're living like a psychopath. You might feel like you're temporarily living like a malignant narcissist. I would think the number one feeling is you're betraying yourself. You're deceiving yourself. You're pulling out the worst of yourself. You find that your speech becomes pointed or angered or hostility, and you're kind of driven to the brink. You're driven to unhappiness. You're betraying yourself. And then a lot of people feel quote unquote lost because they don't know where, themselves are. They don't know where they begin and end because they violated their boundaries, their psychological boundaries. And it's like, if you can imagine it like a psychological fence or a wall of protection around you that encapsulates and protects your decisions and your choices. And your choices, your decisions, your feelings, your emotions, your moods, and then even more prolonged, your identity becomes one of total boundary violation where you don't have a sense of yourself. You don't have a sense of your talent, your strength, your right or wrong, who you are, your happiness. This can become chronic, and it can become, basically if you live in this state for too long, your emotions then begin to activate your DNA. Basically, your that which you're composed of, your DNA strands, which has your template for being and what expresses in yourself. So you might then trigger your DNA to express the wrong aspects of yourself. So just like the DNA tells you whether you have blue eyes, brown eyes, this, that, or the other thing, this arm, this, that's a DNA expression. If you are around this type of pathological person, it's going to trigger your DNA to elicit a chain reaction, which is then an expression of that in that, along those lines. So you can then trigger the DNA to express, disease, unhappiness, the degeneration of your cells. You might get the fatigue, the adrenal fatigue, the lupus, the fibromyalgia, all the, autoimmune systems which become triggered negatively. And you have to be very careful because, you don't want to wind up at the doctor and find out, that you've now have a disease because of the emotional, negative, impact that you have, triggered in your life. So you have to take responsibility for that. And if you have experienced this sort of temporary feeling of, living against yourself, living against your grain, living against your true heart, becoming sort of disjointed from your value system where you've then, violated your boundaries, or you've, allowed this person to make you do, feel, and become this way, especially the behaviors. A lot of people, find themselves doing things that they never thought that they would be doing. And because this it has been as a ramification from this negative influence in your life, this pathological person, which is they're going to continue to be a narcissist. They're going to continue to be a sociopath. They're going to continue to be a psychopath. They're kind of caught up in their own pattern. So if you can look at them and understand that they have a different pattern for life, as different as plaid is to floral, they have a different template, blueprint, and expression in their life, which is going to be what it is. So they're going to continue to proliferate and be that person. And if it's been a negative influence, a negative impact, it's brought you to a place in your life that is not working, you are unhappy, it is what has occurred, then it has what has occurred. And you have to, call it out. It is what it is. Understand in your heart of hearts, basically in the privacy of this YouTube village where we're discussing these things, in confidence, for yourself, if this is what it is, begin to say, okay, I now am living in acceptance. I am that I am, and I'm embracing that now. And it's okay for me to embrace it. Even if I'm starting out from just a seed, I don't know where this is going. I don't know where my life is going. I don't know my talents. I don't know what I want. Release the fear. Number one, because oftentimes if you've been living in a relationship with this narcissist or psychopath or sociopath, you've had a good degree of struggle and fear in your life, correct? So this is a good sign. If you've experienced this, living by fear, and kind of living in that hypervigilant, paranoid, suspicious state, distrust, a lot of fighting, a lot of conflicts, this is not really how your life is meant to be. Temporary anger, temporary fear, temporary, jolts, it's part of life. But we're talking chronic, ongoing, where, people are waking up afraid, they can't eat, they can't sleep. You've got police reports, you've got court dates, you've got, you've got, police involved, you've got domestic violence charges. It's time to see it for what it is and stop this. You can't plan for your future. You don't feel like you have a future. You can't create. You can't get in that vision part of your mind. Which is the crowning achievement of the human being, is to have the prefrontal cortex, which is able to live and dream and have a vision for yourself and kind of plan there. If you're not used to living in that space, then number one, you have to draw the line and say, okay, at least I'm going to stop the bleeding over here with the fear base and the paranoia and, the high risk behavior and the police reports. I'm at least going to stop that now. And I'm no longer going to respond to that voice, which is drawing me in that direction, because that's clearly not the direction that I deserve or I want, for especially now and for the long run, for my future. So just even beginning to cease that will get you on the right path. So if that's your first step, then that is your first step. You need to acknowledge, these steps, and at least ceasing that will be your number one. And even if it's, been what it is what it is. It was a good ride. It was a bad ride. It was a sick ride. It made me pretty sick. I threw up. This roller coaster gave me vertigo, but this is enough is enough. I don't want this lifestyle. I don't want this life. I'm going to let that person continue on. I'm not jealous. I'm not insecure. Basically now I'm claiming my safety. And safety is like a coming home. Like John Bradshaw discusses in his book, championing the inner child or healing the shame within, It's like a homecoming. It's like, okay, I'm safe now, and I'm now beginning to create and live from that space. And even if you need, even if you're in the intrusive thoughts, the flashbacks, the nightmares, those sort of things that come from being in a relationship with a very pathological person, that's a good indicator. The intrusive thoughts, the flashbacks, the dreams where this person is like, still in your face, still present in your life, and you're basically, by thought alone, you're triggering the stress response. By thought alone, you're triggering this, this insecurity, this fear, these nightmares, this hypersexualization, this hyperstabilization, by thought alone. You need to extract yourself. You need to stop. You need to get away. This has become psychological warfare, basically, and it can really lead to some serious. A lot of people, become like a temporary breakdown, like a nervous breakdown from this, and it's very scary. And people will not be, you'll feel a need to isolate, and sort of, shut down. Temporarily. You're going to need to go to a retreat and really work on your healing. Work really hard on, I am safe. I am safe. I am me and I am safe. I am me and I am safe and I am free. And begin to kind of calm down and, just really kind of begin to calm the emotions, work on your breath, and work on, as we talk about the senses, but most importantly is the affirmations, and the feelings, and calling forth the feelings of safety, serenity, security, and begin to really condition your body, mind, and emotional body into that vibration. And really quickly, you need to get around some very calming music, very calming senses, scents, as in scents, fragrances, the rose, the lavender, the tea tree, the sort of the grounding sense. You need to work with touch that is very comforting, the silks, the down feathers, the textural pieces, that you have. You need to surround yourself with this, change your clothing according to this, and really, and work with the self-soothing, the lotion, the oils, and the vision. You need to get into, repriming your subconscious mind and getting the positive images around, which is, calling forth your future now, and really getting rid of everything in your environment that has to do with this person that's triggering this thought pattern to think like they do, feel like they do, react like they do. The narcissist and psychopath will have you living a life which is really not your own. So really reclaim that for yourself. Begin to resensitize in all the senses that which is, kind of recondition your life so that it's more congruent with you, and you'll find that your brain, your emotional body, and your spirit will begin to get reorganized and begin to wire and fire in new ways that really work in a flow. And so really allow that to be, and get into that allowing, especially that safety. So yes, peace and harmony with you here today. I hope that these videos do help emerge from and really begin to get into a whole different vibrational and healing space as a result of narcissistic, malicious, narcissistic, or psychopathic relationship or experiences. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.